Years ago, there was a legendary treasure lost that was so valuable it could have boosted the economy of entire countries. In today's world, where greed has spread like a disease, the truth about this dangerous treasure finally came to light. The story takes place during the American Civil War, a time full of riots, chaos, and fierce battles. Back then, the country hardly looked like the economic giant it would become. In the middle of all this turmoil, we see a captain loading his ship with goods. Surprisingly, the crates were packed with gold coins and countless gems. Nobody really knew where he stored such a huge amount of gold, but one thing was clear: the whole ship was loaded with treasure. The captain signaled his crew to set sail, but they hesitated too long, and enemies had already been watching. Before the captain and his men could react, the attackers struck. The ship got damaged in multiple places, but it wasn't built for a fight. It was made for carrying cargo, not battles. They couldn't hold off the attack for long. Thinking fast, the captain ordered all the ship's lights turned off, making it impossible for the enemies to spot them. Using this trick, the ship slipped away through a different route and was never seen again. Years went by, modern times came, and most people thought the treasure was just a made-up story, a legend passed down to confuse future generations. In the present day, we meet Dr. Sophia, who travels with her team to a spot in Africa. She had heard reports about a deadly disease spreading there and wanted to check it out. Along with her senior colleague, she visited a patient's home. The senior was shocked at the man's condition. The disease had left him paralyzed, with strange marks all over his body, ones nobody had ever seen before. Sophia, however, recognized the symptoms. She had seen similar cases just last month in other patients. Realizing the disease was spreading fast, she knew the World Health Organization needed to be alerted since they had no clue about it yet. Sophia told her senior they had to send all the reports to the so action could be taken to stop the outbreak. Though hesitant at first, he agreed. Before leaving, he mentioned they still needed samples from the patient's father, who was at the church. Sophia kept working on her own and went to the church, only to find out the man was already dead. Still, she carefully gathered samples from his body for further study. Unaware of it, a masked man had been watching her closely. Suddenly, he attacked Sophia, grabbed her bag, and ran off. Sophia screamed for help, and just then, a man on a nearby boat rushed to save her. Sophia fainted briefly, but luckily, the masked man only took one of her bags and didn't hurt her. When she came to, she found herself on the boat surrounded by people searching underwater for something. One of them was a man named Duck, the one who saved her. Sophia immediately asked Duck to drop her off at the harbor so she could get home. But Duck calmly said there was nothing to worry about. He explained that once their search was done, they were heading back to the harbor anyway. Soon, Duck and his team pulled up a very old statue that had been buried in the sea for years. Duck's boss was excited about the find and told him to clean the statue up because it was going to be displayed in a Nigerian museum. Duck and his crew got ready for the presentation, and Sophia was invited too. A lot of important people showed up, some of whom Sophia already knew and talked with. Meanwhile, Duck met with a Nigerian dealer involved in smuggling. The dealer came to make a different deal, but when Duck noticed a golden coin in his hand with strange markings, he was shocked. He asked where the dealer had found it. This was a big deal for Duck since he had been looking for that kind of coin for years. The coin was tied to the legendary captain who had loaded his ship with tons of gold coins before disappearing at sea. The dealer said he found the coin in a place called Mali in Africa. Duck suddenly realized the lost ship could be hidden there. During the statue presentation, the crowd was amazed by its value. A company owner was also there, talking with Duck's boss. Sophia approached the owner too, trying to get as much info as possible. She also needed to go to Mali because reports showed that the dangerous disease she was studying started there. She asked the company owner to arrange her trip and promised to share her research for free in return. The owner agreed and set everything up. The next day, when the ship was ready to sail to Mali, Sophia and her team joined, saying the boss had ordered them to be taken there. They planned to split up once they arrived. Duck, following orders, took them on board. On the journey, Sophia asked Duck about his mission. He said he was searching for the long-lost treasure rumored to have vanished with the captain's ship. Sophia didn't say anything about her own research, keeping it secret. Once they reached Mali, everyone went their own way. Duck immediately tried to find the man the dealer mentioned, who was supposed to have more info about the coins. But when Duck got there, he found the man was dead and no longer lived there. Feeling hopeless, Duck and his crew wondered how to even start looking for the coins. As they sat thinking, their attention turned to a nearby spiritual site. It was a sacred Muslim place, and Duck felt something strange about it he couldn't ignore. He went straight into a big record hall, knowing it held archives going back hundreds of years that recorded ships docking at the harbor and major events. Since the legendary ship was famous back then, it had to be mentioned in the records. Duck gave some details to a clerk who found a letter describing the ship. It said that when the ship finally came back, everyone on board was already dead. The ship was empty of life and later drifted to a nearby island. This gave Duck a new clue about where to look next. He told James about it and insisted they keep moving forward. Heading to a deserted spot by boat, one of their crew found weird samples that looked like rust. But after checking closely, they realized it wasn't normal rust. It was something else, something worth investigating further. While they were still talking, a Nigerian army patrol boat showed up. The soldiers stopped them and demanded to know where the researchers were, the ones Duck brought along, meaning Sophia and her team. The company owner had already told the Nigerian police about Sophia's arrival to study the disease, and the army feared the outbreak might spread even more. Their orders were to arrest Sophia and her group before it got worse. Duck realized what was happening but pretended to cooperate. He told the officers he could lead them to the researchers. Trusting him, the soldiers tied their boat to his, but then Duck suddenly sped up, causing the army boat to capsize, and at just the right moment he cut the rope and escaped. He didn't want the military anywhere near Sophia because by then he'd started to care about her. Soon after, Duck and his team tried to push forward, but more army boats appeared and surrounded them. With no way out, Duck refused to give up. He jumped onto one of the enemy boats and fought the soldiers head-on. During the chaos, he risked his own boat to survive. A soldier kept shooting at them, so Duck steered his boat straight at the attacker's ship and jumped off just before they crashed. The two boats collided and blew up. Somehow, Duck, James, and one more teammate barely made it, swimming to shore. Exhausted but alive, they reached a shelter, thinking the worst was over, but it was really just the start of a deeper, darker mystery. Duck told his men they had to protect Sophia and her team no matter what because if the military got to them first, they'd get arrested. He sent his friend Rudy across the border with urgent orders while he and James headed toward the researchers. Meanwhile, Sophia and her crew, along with her senior colleague, had already reached the Mali region, where the disease was believed to have started. They entered an abandoned village and found that more than half of its people were dead, victims of the deadly outbreak. Sophia knew this was the right place, believing genuine research here could finally expose the truth. She set up camp and got ready to start work at dawn, unaware of the danger creeping closer. By the time Duck and James found Molly and began searching for her, Sophia was already gathering water samples from a nearly dried-up well, hoping they'd hold the answers she needed. She started climbing down into the well, but just then her senior told her some soldiers had arrived to talk. He said he would clear up the confusion, but suddenly the soldiers opened fire. They killed all of Sophia's team except her senior. A helicopter appeared overhead, terrifying Sophia, who slipped and fell deep into the well, unsure how to escape. The helicopter carried a ruthless dictator who had found out about Sophia and came specifically to capture her. He asked her senior where Sophia was, but when the senior refused to tell, the dictator killed him right there. Now, Sophia was the only survivor, trapped in the well while the dictator ordered his men to find and kill her immediately to stop the disease from spreading further. Duck and James watched from behind a hill, waiting for the perfect moment to rescue her. The real challenge was that Sophia had to climb out of the well first. It's really tough to escape a deep well in a dangerous spot like that, but the best way is to press hands and feet against the walls and slowly climb up, stopping now and then to rest. If more than one person is trapped, it's easier. You can press your backs together and push your feet against the walls to move up bit by bit. Sophia should have tried this, but just in time, Duck and James showed up with a rope to pull her out. Soldiers noticed them, and one nearly killed Duck, but Sophia managed to climb out and shoot the soldier before he could hurt her. Heartbroken over losing her senior and almost all her team, Sophia cried, but Duck reminded her they needed to get out before the dictator caught up with them. They agreed and left in a car, heading for a nearby village, only to be captured by angry locals who took them to their king. The king questioned them, suspicious they were terrorists and demanding to know their purpose. Sophia explained she was researching a deadly disease spreading in the area, which shocked the king. He took them to see a big group of sick villagers suffering from the very same illness Sophia was studying. After checking carefully, she confirmed it was indeed the dangerous disease. Determined to find a cure, Sophia started collecting samples with Duck and some helpers, even checking the villagers' food and water. Soon she discovered the local water was poisoned. It had substances making people sicker, and she suspected it wasn't natural. Someone must have deliberately tainted the water to spread the illness. Together with Duck, she tried to track down where the polluted water was coming from. Thanks to their hard work, The king allowed them to stay until they found a solution. Deeply saddened by his people's loss, the king supported Sophia and Duck in their mission. Meanwhile, James was playing games with some local kids when the ball rolled into a nearby cave. Curious, he went inside and found drawings carved on the walls. He called Duck and Sophia over to check them out. The pictures turned out to be ancient artwork etched in stone, and after studying them, they found references to the same legendary ship Duck had been looking for, the treasure ship that disappeared years ago. The drawings showed the ship was buried in a desert that used to be covered by water but later dried up. They also revealed there was a fortress in the desert linked to the sea by a waterway. Duck guessed something inside that fortress might be contaminating the water, so they decided to investigate. Without wasting time, Duck, Sophia, and James started traveling across the hot desert, enduring the blazing sun for hours until they reached the ancient fortress standing alone in the sands. Nearby, Duck spotted a huge solar power plant belonging to the same company owner who had supported Sophia earlier at the party. This made Duck suspicious. Why place such a big facility here? While thinking about that, they saw a train crossing the desert. The three of them hid and jumped on the train unnoticed, blending in with the soldiers riding it. Meanwhile, Rudy was doing his own research and found strange rust on his clothes from where their boat had been destroyed. After testing the samples, he was shocked by how fast they reacted and told his superior, who realized they needed to act fast. Back in the desert, Duck, Sophia, and James snuck into the solar plant, which was huge above ground and also had underground tunnels. As they went deeper, they discovered the plant was producing a lot of radioactive chemicals that could only be made under very specific conditions, explaining why the place was chosen. They noticed containers being taken down into the basement. Following them, the trio opened one of the rooms and found extremely toxic chemicals dangerous to humans. Many people were forced to work there, and some chemicals were leaking into a nearby river. Sophia realized this was why the water had become poisonous and why the disease was spreading. Illegal activities were happening hidden under the solar plant's cover. Shocked and angry, she and Duck knew they'd uncovered something huge. Rudy showed up at the US Embassy with his boss, sharing his findings and warning that if they didn't act fast, the outbreak could spread across the whole country. Soon after, it came out that Sophia, Duck, and James had been caught when security alarms gave away where they were. The company's owner confronted Sophia directly. She fired back, demanding why he was purposely making people sick. He stayed calm, saying it was just a solar plant making chemicals for research. Sophia told him his radioactive waste was being dumped into the river, causing the disease nobody could cure yet. Shocked, the owner said he didn't know the chemicals were that dangerous and went to ask the dictator why the waste was disposed of like that. The dictator bluntly said if he wanted to shut down the plant, he could, but only if the entire contract payment was still made. Under pressure, the owner had no choice but to keep going. Meanwhile, Duck and James were shoved into a truck, their hands tied, probably heading to a grim fate. Using his golden coin, Duck managed to loosen a screw and break free, helping James escape too. Even though they were still tied up and weighed down, they had no choice but to walk across the desert. Eventually, they found a crashed plane. The engine was wrecked, but the tires were good, and with some creativity, they got it rolling. The wind helped push them forward faster. After a while, they reached a village where Duck called his boss to report everything and get directions. He traded his golden coin for a jeep and drove straight back to the village where the disease was worst. Duck and James knew Sophia was being held by the company owner and that the solar plant was the real cause of the outbreak. They had to shut it down and rescue her. Knowing he couldn't do this alone, Duck asked the local king for help. The king refused at first, wondering what good it would do his people. After thinking it over, Duck offered the king his advanced jeep in return for support. Pleased with the offer, the king agreed and sent troops to help. With a solid plan ready, Duck and James headed straight for the gates of the solar power plant. Security guards blocked their way, but they didn't back down. They raised their weapons and forced the guards to fall back, moving deeper into the plant. Their sudden break-in didn't go unnoticed. Alarms blared across the facility seconds later. The owner got the alert and immediately locked everything down, determined nobody would escape with the truth. As Duck and James moved through the huge building, something felt off. The factory floor, once buzzing with workers and machines running non-stop, was now completely silent. Not a single worker in sight. Computers were humming, conveyor belts frozen, and half-eaten lunches still sat on tables as if everyone vanished suddenly. Panels and screens scanned for any sign of sabotage or activity. Duck's eyes went wide in shock when he saw the countdown on the main reactor was almost over. A catastrophic explosion was about to happen. The owner had planned it all. He figured if the world found out about the link between his solar plant and the disease, authorities would shut down all his operations countrywide. So, to keep the secret safe, he decided the only option was to blow the entire plant up. James didn't hesitate. He dashed to the basement where the reactor's control system was. His footsteps echoed through the empty halls, making the tension thicker. At the same time, Duck looked up and saw a helicopter landing on the rooftop. Its blades chopped the heavy air. Inside, the owner was holding Sophia, getting ready to take her away. Duck's adrenaline pumped as he sprinted toward the helicopter, weapons ready, knowing he had only a few seconds to stop it. Suddenly, a shadow moved behind him. It was the man in black, the same mysterious figure who attacked Sophia before. He lunged at Duck with lightning speed, forcing Duck into a tight, intense fight. Punches, kicks, and blocks flew in a fast blur. Duck's skills and reflexes were pushed to their limits. Despite her exhaustion, Sophia found strength to join in, hitting the attacker as hard as she could. Meanwhile, James worked quickly in the basement, bypassing security and disarming bombs strapped to the main reactor. Sweat poured down his face as he typed codes fast, breaking through layers of firewalls and defenses. Every second counted. The countdown was down to minutes, and one wrong move could mean total destruction. With one last keystroke, James stopped the reactor sequence. The chemical warning stopped, and the plant's systems slowly returned to a safe state. Duck finally overpowered the man in black with a sharp move, sending him crashing to the ground. As dust settled, Sophia was freed from the helicopter's grip. Duck grabbed her arm and pulled her to safety while James emerged from the basement, worn out but successful. The plant was still dangerous, but the immediate threat was over. They stood together in the quiet wreckage, the adrenaline fading away. The mission wasn't finished, though. Sophia still needed protection because the owner wouldn't give up easy, and the disease danger was still there. But for the first time in hours, they were alive. With the secrets of the plant and the golden coin in Duck's hands, they finally had a way to fight back. Sophia and Duck took down the attacker by any means and quickly jumped into a jeep to make a getaway. But the trouble wasn't done. Another helicopter was hovering nearby, carrying the regional dictator who probably wanted to kill them. He immediately started surrounding them. The attack shook the sand violently, triggering massive explosions. Then, something unbelievable happened. Because of the tremors, the long-lost ancient ship Duck had been searching for appeared from under the sand. The dictator kept attacking from above, so they all took refuge inside the ship. Duck couldn't believe what he'd been hunting for had finally shown up right here. The dictator's army rushed to the scene, but Duck spotted countless golden coins still intact and worth millions scattered around. Seeing the huge army, Duck and his group found an old cannon nearby. They loaded it with gunpowder and fired straight at the helicopter, blowing it up instantly. After that, strangely, many of the dictator's officers dropped their weapons. As they retreated, it became clear these were actually the king's soldiers sent to help them. Everything was finally under control. Later, the business owner responsible for the toxic chemicals was shown living it up in another country, but an agent slipped him water contaminated with the same disease-causing toxins from Africa, making sure he'd meet the same fate. Meanwhile, Duck lived peacefully with Sophia, and all the gold from the ship was given to the people of Africa who needed it most to recover from the disease. And that's where the story wraps up.